Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Souter. Thank you all so much for joining us. Ember, welcome back. Good to see you.
Hello.
So, wanted to have his Andring here.
Andring.
I know. So I called in. I called in as Andring, and I was just like, you coming into work today? He goes, I have, I feel so sick. I don't think I can come in today. No, he's going through the mountains. I know where he is, and we once attempted to do a show as he was. I was like, it'll be fine. He's like, I guarantee you, it's not going to work. It's like, hey, it'll be fine. And it's all mountains. There's no cell service. So what happens is we get 5 minutes of him talking, and it's all roboting, and then he's gone. He's gone for 15, and then he comes back. I told him that you would have no objection to that since we really didn't want to listen to him for more than 5 minutes anyway. Suffice it to say, I should stop saying that when he drives around the country and he knows where I live and has an AR-15. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
But all of those things are important factors.
Yes.
But also, as you probably recall, I used to be a cross-country truck driver.
Oh, that's
Mountains
right.
are frustrating as hell. I get it.
Yeah, and he really makes an effort, and he really wanted to be here. And then I guess I have Ember's name wrong, which is true. This has really just been, there has been complications with this show from day one. Do I have her down as Mouty? That's the only name that I have her down as Mouty. Okay, well,
goodness. Professor Reverend Dr. Oh my god. See, yeah, I didn't. Yeah. My monitor is awful. I can't even see like what's in the text boxes, so I'm just like assuming it's fine.
Well, if the live chat hadn't pointed out, we run a tight ship here. Well, and I'm talking to his Andring because I want to make sure some of his Andring's questions get asked. And unfortunately, I can't like write them down and do all this other stuff. But I thought he had some really good and fair questions. And he and I talk about this stuff. We're verbal processors, so sometimes at 2 in the morning, he and I will be shooting the shit with each other about stuff like this. And that's, I think, why the show works. But he sort of laid it down to just kind of one question with about 30 different components. So we'll get there. And then I was just like, where's Ember? She's not even, and so I'm just like, we start talking about Ember, and I'm just like, well, I don't know where she is. And then I started just saying how nice she is, and just what a wonderful person, one of the best guests we've ever had. I'm sure that's what I was saying. I don't really remember what I was saying. What I remember is saying, I don't know where she is, and then all of a sudden it pops up on the internal text. She's in the room with you, actually. I'm like, oh, she can hear us. Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that special? This is today's show is just it's gonna be one of those shows, I think. So.
Well, we're talking about genocide again. We have to interject what comedy we can.
But yes, well, that thought it crossed, because so here's. I'd like to be known for something else. It's like so. I listen. We did our first show, and there was some significant things we didn't cover. And honestly, if you take a look at how we started it, we were going to go over all the points of what constitutes a genocide. And I think that's really important. But I also think the rabbit holes that we went down were important. So our hour-long show went for like 2 hours, which is great. I actually like the longer shows. And we still didn't cover what we needed to, which I actually think is great too. It means that, we had a good chemistry, and it was a really good show. I think it was one of our better shows. But I'd like to be able to, because I know that when Ember gets a DM from me, it's not going to be, hey, would you like to come on to talk about puppies and rainbows? She knows that's not the topic.
It's always genocide with you, Nick.
I know. I'm sorry. I'll try to find a better topic for next time. We're a news show. This is relevant. The algorithm just loves it. It's just the more times we say that word and just put it right in the thumbnail, the algorithm just like, oh, these guys, we want to platform them. But it's one of the things I've been thinking, because I've had some time to think, and since I'm a little slower sometimes, as Titan likes to remind me, I need that time. So I take all the time I can to think. And one of the reasons that it's harder to see what's happening with trans communities is because it's so easy to see what's happening with people who have immigrated to this country illegally, especially, but even legally now is starting to get quite bad. And but I don't think Christian nationalists want to wipe them off the face of the earth. I don't think Christian nationalists would like to completely eliminate anyone who's come into this country illegally. I think they just want them out. I think that's what they want.
Well, it's easier to sell, we just want them out, but following the normal pattern to its inevitable conclusion, if they became king of the world, no more brown people, period. It's just all whites all the time.
That's fair. But I think in terms of who right now they're trying to eliminate, I think it's anyone who's not cisgender. Period. I think that they're interested in wiping. They're interested in listen. They're equal opportunity genocidal maniacs. So
yes, you can wipe out more than one people group at a time. In fact, their predecessors in the mid 20th century did exactly that. They're most famous for the Holocaust of the Jews, but in the same Holocaust, they also went after all the flavors of LGBT and the Romani and a bunch of other people. Everybody can fit in these ovens.
And the atheists.
It's rarely one group only at a time.
Yep. So, and it makes it easier to segue from one to another. And the other, you start small. The Jews were a reasonably small group, and one of the things I try to point out, I think I pointed out on our last show, and I think it's something that is it's a fact that is not properly represented in history class, which is that at capacity, the concentration camps that were set up already could eliminate every Jew in Germany. The problem was, assuming that you could get them all there, get the trains, the whole 9 yards, the capacity was sufficient already to eliminate all of them in about 3 or 4 months. And then to eliminate all of those in all of Europe in about 1.5 years. That was the capacity they already had. And what they said was, wow, we really need to ramp up capacity. And they could count. These aren't people who can't count. They were adding another facility at Auschwitz. All of these were made, by the way, out of stone. It would have been a lot easier and a lot faster to make them if they made them temporary facilities. None of these were temporary, which tells you one thing. They were going to go somewhere else. And in Mein Kampf, he actually already says where he's going to go. Hitler anticipated there being, I think, 300 million Germans. And he said Germany isn't big enough to hold that many. That's how many we're going to have in 10 years. We're going to need space. We're going to need it from Slavic lands, which is the Russians, essentially. And he took a fair shot at trying to get it. It's big shock. Genocidal maniacs really just like genocide, and if they run out of their current victims, they'll find another one.
Yeah, it's more about the power than the purity. That's just the tool that they use to get the people to go along with it. But there's always the next most other. After you shove one group into the ovens, then you just go back to the next. And there's always another division. Like they could have gone all the way back to hair and eye color. And inevitably they would have if it came to that, just to maintain power.
And inevitably that have wiped out everybody, including all of the Germans, and you'd be left with, theoretically, left with just one guy sitting there who's
the
participated.
Perfect Ubermensch.
Yeah, the Ubermensch all alone. going,
I mean, you do need
complete...
a certain amount of population to run your machinery of domination, but there's the big drawback, ethics set to the side for the moment, is biodiversity. Like, populations that don't have diversity go extinct really easily. One disease wipes everyone out, you know?
Well, and I suspect that in Germany, had they been able to continue, they would have even eaten into their own population sufficiently, because they would have felt the importance of purity enough worth risking what was left of the human race. I mean, it was that unhinged.
Oh yeah, Daniel Quinn wrote an interesting book called After Dachau, which it's the story of a black person in Africa who's reincarnated into a Third Reichian in an alternate future where Germany won the war and then just kept winning the war until they'd conquered and purified the entire planet. And so all of Africa was Germans in this future, and this black person reincarnated. This actual African person from Africa reincarnated in Africa, and is observing this world of middle class whiteness that's frozen in the 20th century because there's no technological innovation. It's all just anything that deviates too far from the norm gets thrown in an oven.
We are living... Wait. Well, it's an odd mix. Yeah, Germany didn't want to use, if I recall correctly, the Russian tanks, which were actually superior, but they refused to admit that they were superior. They refused to as they conquered these facilities, they were like, no, we're going to retrofit them to make German tanks instead of making the superior Soviet T, what would it be at the time, like T-35s or whatever they were. Yeah. Okay. Well, the last time we spoke, one of the things that struck me hardest, and it's actually roughly where we ended at, we were talking about the criteria for genocide, so that we could understand that term. But one of the things is, in order to affect the removal of an unwanted group of a kind, and removal, whether it's by getting them to leave the country or by executing them all, removal. The psychological warfare is extraordinarily important. And one of the questions I had asked you was, what was the toll of so much indifference to the suffering of the of LGBTQ and trans communities here in the United States, indifference to the implications of trans panic defense and that being allowed, and in fact that there are some states where that's almost encouraged, and
30 where it's still legal.
Yeah. So the majority, in other words, and you described it, and I think anyone who wants to see it should go back to the show and see your description of living in a world where that's the everyday reality, which for most of us is not. So for me, it seems like that is the biggest that we've gotten to so far argument for a deliberate attack on trans people and trying to remove them, and probably all LGBTQ from the picture, whether that picture is the U.S. or the planet, is based on which neo-Nazi you're talking to. So, do you still have that list, and can we go over that list again and pick up where we left off?
The 10 steps?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's see. This is a few people have seen these before. It's Gregory H. Stanton, the president of Genocide Watch, developed the 10 stages of genocide, which explains the different stages that lead to genocide. I'm reading from the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust Museum right now, and that's just how they structured that sentence, which is fun. The steps do not have to go in order, and sometimes they get skipped, and there's certain ones that have to go in a certain place. Like, for example, step 10 is denial. We never did a genocide. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing to see. Don't look in those graves. That generally comes after. But you will get denial during also. So that's fun. So I believe we only covered the first step last time, and then we got off on
wow, we only got to step
things.
1. Okay. Between the two of how many squirrels does it take to derail in time? Apparently not even one. We could
As all the world knows, I am prone to tangents.
Yeah, don't bring out your animal that shall not be named that you brought out earlier. We've got enough demonetization on this show.
She has a name, Nick.
Oh, well, you can. Okay, her name, just not the species, please. We have standards.
Well, if we don't let her come out and play, she'll be blue.
Only the feet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, they're like that anyway, but details.
Yeah. Well, she'll get over it, I hope. So, all I need is to start getting complaint emails from activists. Greenpeace is not going to come after us. You didn't let you wouldn't mention the species. Well, to be fair, I got to pay rent. Of course, the title of the show is there a trans genocide? So I probably lost rent for this show anyway. But moving forward,
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. YouTube is crazy with that. We've and everybody who's been here a regular. I mean, we covered the invasion, the main invasion from Crimea by the Russians from Crimea into Ukraine. And I was surprised we are classified as a news channel by YouTube, and whether we get more latitude because of that or not, I don't know. I do know they're not fans of us. They want everything to be unboxing videos because that's where they make the most money. But we showed people dying, and sometimes it was live. And that may have got us like ad suitability warnings. They're like, well, we're going to limit because not a lot of people want to show their ads on your show while your show is like, okay, that's fair. But they didn't like demonetize us. We didn't get struck. We didn't get, I had a friend who was doing a sketch of a female nude. And she knew not to air it. She didn't mean to air it. What she did was she flipped the page over, and for a split second, it's on like one frame. Boom, channel is down. Whole channel, they can't stream to it. Nothing. It is a pencil sketch of a female nude. I'm like, okay, so I can show people getting their heads blown off, literally. We've seen that and aired it. But the Puritan values, and this actually gets back to Hegseth. This gets back to white nationalism. It's like it's okay to murder, genocide. It's okay what Israel is doing to Lebanon. It's okay. We can, in the name of Jesus, do whatever we want to, but don't talk about or have sex, or don't do it in anything except the prescribed way. It's really fascinating.
Okay, I'm clutching my pearls now, so we'll be safe.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I would like to bring to YouTube's attention that our guest today has clutched her pearls at my vulgarity, and we deeply apologize for any monetization negative affecting behavior. I don't think that's a sentence, but I hope you know what I mean.
I'm sure the bots will be fine.
and notice we still haven't gotten past number 1. So let's see if we can.
Case in point.
Yeah. Okay. All right, folks. This is a professional show. You are about to watch professionalism. Probably for the first time ever on In Time. You're going to watch it as we go through the 10. And maybe you should just go through them real quick so that we've at least done it.
I know. Just run through them all, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll just take it from the top for completeness sake, and so that the people who want to take this out of context later can have a nice clean clipping point.
Perfect.
So the first one is classification. And it's pretty simple. It's where the differences between people groups and specifically a lack of respect. This is where you get the us versus them, which is honestly the main point of doing it for a lot of authoritarian types. But once you start promising we'll get rid of the them, you get kind of locked into it. The mob mentality takes over and everybody gets carried away. But ultimately, it's the us versus them thing. And we get stereotypes being created. We get people being hated for what kind of person they are. The slurs come out, and this doesn't necessarily have to lead to a genocide, but it does contribute to dehumanization and an increase in violence. Take Black Americans, for example. Even though they're not being genocided, because there's still a lot of racism at both systemic and cultural levels, in some regions of the country, people just kill Black people and no one cares. So there's an increased incidence of violence, there's low repercussions because of this kind of thing. Even without a genocide, it is not good for the targeted group.
Yeah. And it sounds like, I would imagine, so what you're essentially saying, a couple of things, if I can break this down. First of all, I would imagine all genocides would require a classification. If there's no classification, there's no real way to actually commit one. So that would be my first posit. But not all classifications are an act of genocide or lead to genocide. Are both those statements reasonably accurate?
Yes.
All right.
And I mean, sometimes they come about organically. I mean, hell, we still do them in society today. Are you a boy or a girl? Are you on team football or team Barbie doll? That's a classification too. It's an us versus them. It's a tribal thing. That's not to say it's human nature as in everyone will always do it. It's more of an argument tradition sort of thing, where humans seemingly have always done it, and therefore it's probably okay.
Okay. Or probably our nature, you can't fight it anyway, so might as well just lean into it, or at least just accept it, and anyone who says we don't have to do this is ignorant.
Yeah, the woke radicals trying to make people equal and fair treatment, and yeah. They'll be the death of civilization.
Yep. All right. Okay. Classification. We finished one. Let's see if we can make it to two.
Okay. Number 2 is symbolization. And this is where you start to put visual markers of the targeted group, of a place to aim hatred. And there's always that added unspoken bit that it's okay to hate these people. In fact, it's expected. You have to prove you're not one of them. You're not a sympathizer. The example here is, of course, the Jews in 20th century Europe were forced to wear those yellow stars. LGBT people got the pink triangle, and so on and so forth. We're doing things a little bit differently here in the US. It's a little bit more sophisticated. And it's piecemeal besides. Like, so many states are doing their own thing. One of the big proposed markers is, gender markers. Some states have been deliberately putting the wrong gender marker on trans people's IDs so that they're effectively outing themselves every time they have to present their identification. Now, for some people, that doesn't come up all that often, but for other people, it comes up every freaking day. And whenever you interact with law enforcement, and whenever you have to do anything government-related, etc. Some states, Kansas in particular comes to mind, have proposed putting a pink triangle on driver's licenses, just so it's really clear who's trans.
So it's not even just like a letter like M or F to go with the gender at birth is, I think, what they say, or however they, whatever. There actually is no gender at birth, but at any rate, so instead of even just using letters, they're using a symbol. They're gonna use a. Oh wow, I did not know. Okay.
So far, as far as I'm aware, it's only been proposed, but the fact that it was even proposed is pretty fucked. But the point is, symbolization. It's a little more subtle in that case. With trans people, it's a little more difficult to sell the symbol because part of the rhetoric, part of the propaganda is we can always tell. And if you can always tell, then you don't need a pink triangle.
Mm.
In theory.
That's a good. That's a good. I imagine that would slow it down, but there is.
Maybe.
No, it will. It will. I'm just trying to figure out how to see. Here's the thing. I saw a meme that said, "Imagine one thing Trump has done better than any of his predecessors." Now, what they really mean is, as president, one thing that he's done that has been for the United States that's better, and I can't think of one. And even people on the right have pointed out that if the memoranda is what the leaks appear to be, he has lost to Iran. And there was what was it? It wasn't Rubio, but it was somebody high up at a meeting with Rubio who walked out. It was, I believe it was a senator, and said, if this is really the deal, I have to see the deal, because if it's this, he lost. It's not even close. He lost. So, but there is one thing that he's done better than any just about person I've seen. I think there's some people who are better than him at this, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. And that is sell things. And I don't think he's good at selling steaks. I don't think he's good at selling, but I think he's good at selling, at least to certain audiences, ideas, including not the least of which is that he really is this alpha male. He knows okay, listen, just try not to laugh too hard. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying somehow I think he's either David Copperfield or I don't know what it is. He's got voodoo, but he sells this and he can change. I mean, how many times has he changed his rationale for anything? The Iran war is the most obvious and most recent and the most number of changes. But, you know, when he went in and said, we're going in because they shot 20,000 of their own people, we here on In Time know some of those people. And I said, wow, this is the first reason he's given that I might actually stand behind him. For a split second, I thought, like, wow, maybe he knows. No, he doesn't care, and he's going to do whatever he wants. But he has successfully sold people. He can change. He can change direction, and nobody. It's become the norm now. It's just sort of like, so he can sit there and say, the reason you have to, well, and aren't they already making that argument that, I mean, the reason you have to check the genitalia is because you can't necessarily tell? So they're already starting to make that argument.
In some places, yeah. I think last week I covered a news story out of Washington State where it probably won't pass because the state's at least half blue. But there's a proposal to mandate genital inspections to allow girls onto middle school sports ball teams. Basically, they want to create a law saying it's legal to fondle little girls' genitals and say it's for their protection. Yeah. So the inevitable consequence of the we need child marriage for our religion party is coming to the fore, but they're trying to like figure out ways to justify it with the bigotries they've been selling for years. So that's less than ideal.
Yeah, and a number of these probably won't pass. I suspect you and I share this concern, which is most of these don't pass their first go around, and that was true in like our Germany too before it became the Third Reich. It took some tries, but it's, just because the genocidal maniac doesn't try on their first time, it's really unwise to assume that they're not going to keep trying until they succeed.
It's part of the strategy. It's part of the fascism how-to guide, right?
Yeah.
Like, you start with the wedge issues where you think you can get your pry bar in the wall that is blocking access to total control of the government. In this case, it's the Constitution, but whatever government you're happening to work with. And so you start with the wedge issues. And so they tried with the bathrooms a few times, right? Like, remember 10 years ago, they passed SB 2 in North Carolina, the first bathroom bill, and everyone laughed at North Carolina. This is absurd. How can you possibly enforce it? This is a dumb law that no one needs. And corporations started leaving, and events started canceling, and people started like moving their vacations elsewhere. And not only did no one take North Carolina seriously, but they suffered some pretty intense consequences just for their bathroom bill. But now 10 states have a bathroom bill. So they just keep throwing the thing out. These first initial tendrils of evil, they throw them out there knowing they will be knocked down. But the next time they'll stick a little better, and the next time they'll stick a little better, and they just keep doing it until they open up a crack and get the wedge stuck in there nice and proper. And then they start prying and they start bringing in other issues. And that's what we're seeing. You know, we've seen the rollback on abortion rights, bodily autonomy, marriage laws. There's proposals to strip gay marriage and interracial marriage. Like, they're just going for everything. And most of it won't land, but they'll keep trying until it does. They'll just keep trying until it's not so absurd. We've been talking about it for 10 years. Maybe it is a good idea, actually. And then it will happen. And then the courts will come in and strike it down. But that's okay, because they'll just pass it again, because it takes the court 2 or 3 years to strike it down. And maybe they'll come up with a different form that takes the courts a little longer to knock down.
Or
it doesn't matter if the law is illegal. If you can just pass another one and it's in force until a court strikes it down. There's no check for that. And then they just start replacing the people on the courts and their laws stop getting struck down. And before you know it, there's no Constitution anymore.
Yeah. Obama letting that court nomination go to Mitch McConnell. Not saying Mitch McConnell made it, Trump made it, but it was Mitch McConnell who stole the nomination, and Mitch McConnell engineered that whole thing. That may go down as the linchpin in what has permitted most of this to occur, because that one extra vote, had Merrick Garland been on the... and I just think about it because I was a big fan of Obama and even worked for him briefly. All right, what's next?
Right, we're doing a thing.
We are. I know. I'm proud of myself. Hold on a sec. Do I get a Scooby snack? Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm good. Let's go. All right. What's next?
Okay. 3, discrimination. I mean, this one, it's kind of a fucking gimme, but here we go. So the dominant group denies civil rights or even citizenship to identified groups. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of their German citizenship. Revoking citizenship? No, that can't happen. And made it illegal for them to do many of the jobs or to marry non-Jewish Germans, etc., etc. So this isn't just like social level hate kind of discrimination, like Irish need not apply kind of thing. This is laws saying you do not have equal rights. And this will come as a shock to some of you. We're there with trans people too, right? Like Iowa a couple of months ago voted specifically to remove trans people from the state's civil rights law. We'd been previously included. Like, it's the first time in U.S. history an entire group has been stripped of civil rights by legislative action. The first time that has ever happened. There have been groups who didn't have rights in the first place, but this is the first time a group has been specifically enumerated as being protected under civil rights law and then removed from that law. We are there.
That's on the state level. At the federal level, isn't there, I think, going through the Supreme Court right now, a case that suggests that trans people should not be covered by the 14th Amendment? Let me rephrase that. Trans people are covered by the 14th Amendment, but they're not covered for being trans. So you can discriminate against them for being trans. The trans just is not a protected status. So they'd still have their other protections as an American, but not for being trans.
So there, of course, there's always going to be issues about that as well. But ultimately, they have to contend with the Bostock decision from back in 2020, which, among other things, effectively just ruled flat out that you cannot factor in a person's gender identity without also factoring in their assigned sex. It cannot be legal to discriminate against a trans person on the basis of being trans without also discriminating on the basis of sex, which is prohibited, period, end of story. But that's not the first ruling that the Supreme Court will have just overturned for no actual reason, so who knows?
Well, and in practice, it's already being ignored. Hegseth doesn't care. Trans people can't serve in the military. There are people for whom the military life is the life. That's it's not my life. I wouldn't, want to live it. And thank God there are people who do, because they keep me safe so I can do this. Can we get a kazoo?
I mean, I can.
Yep. Exactly. So thank God for them. And then the idea that we would take someone who would volunteer to do really dangerous things for their country. Sometimes, and I have to believe that killing people, I hope for most people, killing people, even when it's justified, is a difficult thing. So they're going out there, they're doing immensely difficult things, traumatizing things. The ones who've come back from doing it, even when it was justified, often come back in need of psychological support. And there are people who say, yep, that's me, but I'm trans. And we're like, oh, sorry, no. What the? Wow.
Yeah, it's...
If they have the warrior ethos, who gives a shit? Are they willing to work with groups of people to go into live fire situations and defend the United States of America? If the answer to that is yes, I don't know why we're asking other questions.
Well, there's a bunch of different factors, and again, the regressives and the far right, they're a little bit scatterbrained on this. There isn't a solid consensus on the next course of action for things. But what approaches a consensus seems to be they're okay with discrimination based on sex too. They want the women out of the military also. And if that puts us below combat effective numbers, they want a draft. Because a draft serves a number of other social purposes, like creating another one of those distinctions between rich and poor. The poor people go to war, the rich people get deferments,
No, excuse me. Bone spurs.
Yes.
Bone spurs.
It's a medical condition, damn it.
Yeah. Just saying. We got to remember.
Yeah.
Bone spurs. Yeah. Okay.
So the point is they're fine with that. They want that kind of social control, and they want that gender segregation in society as well. They want women... They make no bones about the fact that they want to strip citizenship from people, including women. Like, we're talking about trans people, but they want naturalized citizens to be stripped of their citizenship. They want women, at the very least, to lose the right to vote. They want to just rewind the clock. Back to, I guess, the founders' times? I don't know. There's no consensus there either. I've heard some commentators talk about taking us to 1099. It was the greatest era. It was American history, but Europe was doing okay, I guess.
Well, and maybe. We showed that clip of Pastor Wilson, who I'm not religious, so I don't care who calls themselves a pastor, but saying Pastor Wilson somehow makes me want to, because here's a guy who is open and grotesque in his views, especially about women, not the least of which is that they have to be obedient. That's the word to the man, including, vote as they're told to vote, if they get the vote, which they really shouldn't, in his view. And he's Hegseth's pastor. He's growing in popularity, as is Christian nationalism, which is, I think, a huge part of this problem.
Oh yeah, there's so much propaganda pointing people in that general direction. They're very sophisticated these days. There've been talk for years about this alt-right pipeline thing, but there's actually a real thing. Like, some of it is just useful idiots, but some of it is organized. Like the entire tradwife movement. That's propaganda to make people idolize the old school gender roles, that women should be obedient and silent and stay in the kitchen. It's wonderful, actually. It was horrible. The liberals tore this away from us. That's bought, paid for, and promoted for political reasons. And it pushes people in the general direction. The red pill incel movement, it's not incompatible with that kind of thing. That's another moral panic. It's another wedge issue. It's another culture war, and it's aimed in the same direction. Feminism is evil, and it's poisoning our nation. It'll be the end of civilization. And so we have to strip women of all rights. It's basically identical to transphobia, except it's aimed at women.
I've noticed I pause longer after you've talked, because I feel like there's so much in my mind to unpack and so many places I want to go. That Charlie Kirk is I think a perfect example, and I didn't know much about Charlie Kirk. He wasn't much on my radar when he was assassinated. But the more I learned about Turning Points USA, I realized this is a mill. It's a mill to turn young, wide-eyed, potentially maybe liberally leaning college students into right-leaning fascists. And to think, as all fascists do, that they found the one true path and that they must defend this. And that's what it is. It's a mill to toss that out. And that's why Charlie Kirk wasn't going to, from what I can tell, and I'm happy to have this discussion. There's a Charlie Kirk thing, but Charlie Kirk was going to those campuses not because he was brave, and certainly I saw his techniques used in debate, and they were the ones that I saw quite disingenuous. But he went there because that's where he could find the young blood to fill the Republican ranks, because young people don't want to vote Republican for a number of reasons. The elasticity and youthfulness of their brain is probably one of them. So, all right, next one. We're doing this. We're gonna get through it.
Assuming I don't sneeze myself completely apart here. Oh goodness. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot. We could do whole shows on each of these individual things.
This is why I was like, you were like, are we going to be able to do a full hour if his Andring doesn't show? Yes, I think we'll be able to do a full hour. I think we'll be okay. I think keeping it under the hour is going to be.
All this stuff is knotted together. It's wild. Anyway, step 4,
okay.
Or component 4, whatever. The stage 4, yes,
yep.
Dehumanization. And like I said, they don't have to go in any particular order, and you're going to see elements of some show up during others and so on like that. So dehumanization in this context, it means those who are perceived as different are treated with removal of human rights. No personal dignity, no agency. You're not fully human. And, the Tutsi in Rwanda, for example, the Tutsis were referred to as cockroaches. The Nazis referred to Jews as vermin. The Allies referred to Nazis as krauts. Like, these sorts of things take away the humanity of the target group and make it okay to kill them. Because you're not killing a human, you're exterminating vermin, you're crushing cockroaches, that sort of thing.
Yeah. On one level, it's starting also with the woke, which concerns me mildly as a term. And then the other one is when I see people argue they're depersoning, which is the one step ahead of shy of that, which is to say, well, I don't see why any person would want to. And there was a senator, this was like 20 years ago or something, who actually argued on Congress. He's just like, I don't see why anybody could possibly be gay, how they could be gay. I know I don't enjoy my visits to the proctologist, so if I don't enjoy that, how could anybody be gay? He literally said, this is in the congressional record. I'm like, I'm sure your wife doesn't enjoy going to the gynecologist. That doesn't mean, well, in your case, who knows? But, anyways.
Sounds like projection to me.
Exactly.
He's one of the guys who goes to Charlie Kirk's funeral or whatever, and the Grindr notification goes off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how often, I noticed you're only 25, sir. How often do you go to the proctologist? Just curious.
Twice a week?
Yeah, exactly. Just
making sure. I'm very concerned about my health.
Yeah, well, that's why Trump keeps going to the doctors. His last visit, he had 40 doctors at his last health visit. That is, his previous, he had 20, so they've doubled the number, and it's well in excess of any that any president has had. They were specialists in what, I don't know, but oh, wow. There's me going. So we've been seeing the depersonalization for a while. What person, would want to, what woman would want to join the military anyway? So it's already starting and then, it just finally becomes, you've got the label for them, and it's not, you can, basically say that you've already established that no person would, ergo no human would, and it's off to the races.
Right. And on that note, Hegseth accidentally kind of did trans people a favor with the whole banishing us from the military thing, because now that we're low-key depersoning women, we're making women, less fully citizens, less fully human, especially at the federal level, especially in the military. We're seeing sexual assaults, rapes, domestic violence situations, all of this stuff skyrocketing. If trans people had still been in when the military took this step, there'd be a lot of deaths.
That's a really good point. A lot of accidental, shootings at the firing range. All right, what's next?
Okay, so we've got number 5. We're accidentally doing a top 10 countdown. My goodness.
I was gonna say, is number 5 creating a list? And I'm sorry. Okay, number 5, organization. Oh, it kind of is creating a list. Yeah.
It's true that it's definitely part of it. Putting things on your name's going on a list. Oh my goodness. So the main difference between a genocide and driving people to unalive themselves by making them miserable and just letting your supporters go ham is the organization. To be a genocide, it is planned. It's intentional. The regime does it on purpose. And regimes use hatred to draw in new troops, and then they train those troops. They don't necessarily have to be stormtroopers or foot soldiers like there have been genocides where it was just local villagers who were polarized by the rhetoric and the propaganda, and the government said, come in, we'll give you weapons, we'll give you training, and then you just, do what you need to do, wink, wink. But that's what that means, is you've got to get it organized, you've got to get government support behind it, or it's just, sparkling ethnic cleansing.
Sparkling ethnic cleansing. Well, good. I'm glad for those of you at home that we now have the difference between genocide and ethnic cleansing. They don't teach that in high school. Actually, they kind of, I think some schools do, which yay for them. You kind of have to if you're going to talk about Columbus, but
I mean, there's still schools that teach creationism, so I'm sure there's some somewhere.
Yeah,
it's just, you know.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. Okay. All right. We're going to push forward. What's next?
Number 6 is polarization. Like I said, they don't always have to occur in order. You can get the polarization at the same time as the dehumanization. We're doing that too. So propaganda begins to spread by hate groups. And the Nazis, for example, used the newspaper Der Stürmer to spread and incite messages of hate about Jewish people. In fact, they actually kind of cheated. They were a little lazy about it. They just kind of like copied the Russian pre-revolution article, Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which was the whole blood libel, great replacement conspiracy theory. The German just copy and pasted it. And we're literally doing the same thing now with trans people. Like, we know there's hate groups. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which originally tracked the activities of the Ku Klux Klan, has been tracking anti-trans hate groups because it turns out they're the same groups. It's the same people under those hoods with the same funding sources, with the same political goals, but details.
And
so,
yeah, please.
Yeah, we've got all these different groups. That the hate groups are there. PragerU, for example, spreading propaganda. It isn't always hate per se. Like, people like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh say some hateful things, but they don't come off as hate mongers. Their purpose is to convince the viewer that the hate the viewer already has is just facts and logic. It's not fear, it's not emotions. It's just the reasonable conclusion. Of course you should want to murder people who are different from you. That's just normal. And then they've got Michael Knowles, who will actually say, get up on stage at a political convention and say, we need to eradicate these people from the face of the earth entirely. So yeah, I dare say we've got that part. Yeah.
Well, and we've got the government, because I think Trump's number one concern is that he makes money and that people adore him. I think that's really what he cares about. And to that end, anyone who's aware of that can manipulate him. I don't think he's rabidly anti-trans or anything like that. But I think he's happy to pass anti-trans and to tote the line for the Heritage Foundation and for all of those people and any white nationalists that want to come on board, because they all tell him he's the greatest president that's ever served. And so now we've got, from the Oval Office, executive orders declaring that the U.S. only recognizes two sexes. Executive orders saying that, certain programs that recognize trans will not only not be recognized, but will be targeted and defunded. And states that don't concur with this will also see their federal funding dry up. So it kind of looks to me like our federal government's involved.
Yeah, I mean, well, for one thing, you've got the whole military situation. That's part of the federal government, and that was entirely justified by prejudice, discrimination, fear, hate. There was nothing real in the military situation when they kicked all the trans people out. There was nothing substantive to that. So that's there too. But as far as Trump, it's hard to say for sure if he actually cares. But we do know that in 2016, he gave that interview where he said, I don't give a fuck, and I don't know why anybody would give a fuck. This is stupid. Next question. And it sucks that I have to agree with 2016 Trump on something. But in 2022, 2023, he gave that pre-recorded video speech where he was talking about, we're going to ban this mental illness at every age. And he was like really worked up, like he was all red in the face, like he was furious and going to punch the camera about it. So maybe he does actually care, or maybe he finally, after all these years in television, figured out how to fucking act. Who's to say?
I really don't think he's got the chops on the last one, but I could be wrong. All right, what's next?
All right, so we've got preparation. So after you plan, you've got to actually like put the things in place. So you often get euphemisms for this stage, like in the case of 20th century Europe, the final solution. You know, we're not talking about a genocide or Holocaust. We're solving the problem. We're answering the Jewish question. What do we do? Well, now we know what to do. And it's the final answer. We won't have to keep moving these people around and pushing them out of our towns and pushing them into ghettos and deporting them. We're just gonna settle the problem once and for all. Our final solution. And we see similar things in every other similar situation. Here, it's a little less sophisticated. Like to go back to Michael Knowles, they do the dehumanization when they say transgenderism. There is no transgenderism. There's trans
Yeah.
people, you know. But they say transgenderism to make it be like it's about the ideology, as if you can wipe out an ideology of people existing without wiping out the people existing. So that they use that kind of
Yeah.
word game with that sort of thing. But that's sort of the same thing. But it'll say transgenderism needs to be eradicated. They're not hiding the eradication part. It's right out in plain sight. It isn't even really plausible deniability, but it's in that same general stage. It's creating fear of the victim group. It's building up to taking action. It's getting the people ready, galvanized, and mentally and emotionally mobilized and ready to act. Transgenderism is the threat. It's our duty as red-blooded Americans to eradicate it. The cockroaches, they're infesting our kitchen. That
It,
sort
it,
of thing.
it seems to, yeah, this is a web. This is not a list. This is like a whole web. It seems to me that it would do something else as you were talking about it, because I was thinking, okay, well, transgenderism turns it into an idea, which means you're not really hurting people, you're attacking the idea, but it's also a contagion. If you don't attack it, other people may get the idea. It's transmissible. That means people who already have this idea are inherently dangerous, but it also makes it a choice. People who are transgender who are guilty of transgenderism have done so as a choice, transgenderism. And so they're responsible for our response to it. They didn't have to follow this ism. They didn't have to do that, but they did, and so we had to respond in the way that we did. Is that anywhere? That's just
it's sort of like abuser language. It's why do you make me hurt you?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot like that. But also a big part of it is just like the Nazis just copy pasted the protocols of the Elders of Zion. This movement's doing the same thing. You know, one of the more celebrated speakers on the death to all trans people side is a lady named Helen Joyce. She's from the UK. She's the, I think, communications director for one of these hate groups called Sex Matters. And she wrote a book that's what got her that famous interview with Richard Dawkins, episode 1 of his new podcast that he started a few years ago. And her book is called Trans: When Ideology Meets Reality. And of course, no one has actually read it because people on her side don't read things. They're not interested. They just buy the book to support her. A Heritage Foundation buys 500,000 copies to make sure it's on the bestseller list. They've been caught doing this over and over and over, so it's not important. But people on our side don't want to read it because it's full of hate and garbage. But of course, I'm a very thorough masochist, so I read it. And on page 197, she just outright says, who is behind this sudden plague of transgender mind virus, yada, yada, yada? Why, obviously, it's the Jews. Oh. Like she just out and says, it's the Jews.
Oh.
It's the same game, and it always has been.
Oh my God. Yeah.
They're trying to replace Great Replacement. They're trying to replace real women with fake women to fuck up the white people's birth rate so that the Jews and brown people can take over Western civilization.
Which is ironic when you consider that, well, Jews and most brown people don't get along, at least in the Middle East.
The fact it's incoherent doesn't matter. and some might argue that's a feature, not a bug.
Fair point. Fair point. All right, next one. We're getting there. We're getting through it, and then we're going to discuss them a couple more. I'm going to ask you is Andrew had a little sad but brilliant question. We'll get into that. So what's the next one?
Okay. So number 8, persecution. Mm-hmm. So, duh. But a lot of people misunderstand persecution these days. Like there's people running around going, oh, white Christians are so persecuted. Fucking hell. So in this case, victims are identified because of their ethnicity or religion or whatever that targeting characteristic is. And death lists are drawn up. Now, this is the genocide part. This isn't just the taking your rights away. This isn't just the making life hard for you, driving you to unalive yourself. This is whoever's still left at this point gets put on a list, like we're doing right now. This year's defense internal security, I forget the exact title for it. A week or two ago, a thing came out trying to classify trans people as terrorists. They're just all terrorists, dangerous radicals and things. So yeah, we're making lists. We've from day one of this administration, we've removed rules prohibiting domestic surveillance on people who are identified as trans people. So, our backstage room is absolutely being monitored right now because I'm definitely on one of those lists. But we're making lists. We're checking it twice, and we're going to find out who's MAGA or nice. And there's multiple utilities for this, because by making these lists, they find out who is an affiliate, who is a supporter, who's a sympathizer. And so they also get lists of their loyalists and their political enemies. So they know where else to go, what else they can do to pull on those levers for even more power. It isn't, again, they don't actually care. There aren't enough trans people to really bother with, except for propaganda purposes. They don't actually care if trans people exist. But they drop the death lists, and then people are sometimes segregated off into ghettos, as we've seen here in the United States during the cleansing of the Native American population, as we've seen in other countries, some of the places Japan occupied during World War II, and of course, we've seen in Germany. Every time they rolled into a new country, they would set up a ghetto area, they'd fence off several blocks of city, and then shove all the Jews in there. It happens over and over. You don't always have a ghetto situation, but it's pretty common. You also get mass deportations. You get people locked up in, torture prisons. You get people locked up in literally detention center concentration camps, like Alligator Auschwitz, for, ostensible deportation, but not always. But you'll also end up with people who are locked up in controlled facilities long term with no charges just because they're not citizens and therefore have no rights, like the rape and forced birth prison in Texas. I don't know if we've talked about that before. You may have mentioned it on previous shows, but TLDR, for anybody who doesn't know, there's a whole bunch of underage girls in ICE custody who catch pregnancy and they're immediately transferred to Texas and just held there because you can't get an abortion in Texas anymore. So they're catching pregnancy while in ICE custody and then being forced to give birth. So yeah, we're doing that too. Freest country on earth, folks. So yeah, that's not trans people specific, obviously, but the point is they don't care. No one has rights anymore. We're only having a polite fiction of pretending everyone has rights,
Do you know Commander McMillan? Have you seen him at all? Do you know at least who I'm talking about?
I've seen him on this show. but I don't know him.
He graduated Naval War College and is one of the few people who I studied Soviet Russia in high school. And just because I found it fascinating, I found the whole idea fascinating. I found 1984 fascinating. And 1984 was based on Stalin's Russia. And it had a lot of those things in common. One of them was that everybody had to have a certain level of incompetence or else they'd get offed, because competency was a bad thing, and the Trump administration has, and we've talked about that before, so I'll try to avoid that rabbit hole. But the other thing that you had to be reasonably competent at was making sure that you could pin the blame on somebody else when something went wrong. And the people who were most successful at this usually got to stay around the longest, although nobody was guaranteed a free pass. And in many of the regimes, they have to be brutal. Kim Jong-un, in order to ensure loyalty, when somebody, one of his uncles had done something that he felt was disloyal, so he had his uncle tied to a tree, and then he had one of the cabinet members that he thought was most next to betray him, gave him a gun and said, "Shoot and kill my uncle." As soon as he does that, he's now a murderer. And there are 10 witnesses because he brought the whole cabinet out to watch him do that. The entire cabinet comes out. If he shoots and kills the guy, he's now a murderer, and everybody's got him for it. And Kim Jong-un has him for it. If he doesn't do it, he's dead, because Kim Jong-un's guard is right there with their guns aimed at this guy. So it seems to me, I think what matters most is that it's efficiency. It's a vulnerable group that's easy to target. If they're too hard to target, just move on to somebody else until you've run out of the easy targets. And then usually by then, we've all become so inured against the violence, against the thousands of people being asked to go to Red Square for a meeting tomorrow where they're all going to be shot dead and everybody knows it. This has just become such a way of life that even the hard groups have become reasonably easy. And then it's Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, we've seen similar things in various authoritarian situations, not necessarily based on group identity, but just as a general matter of practice. For example, the Russians used to do a practice in their military called decimations, which it's based on the old Latin term 1/10. So they'd have the army units group off into groups of 10. And then they would decide amongst themselves which of them is going to die. Your 9 friends would decide you're done, and maybe they'd give you the chance to do it yourself. Maybe they would do it for you. Whatever. It's not important. The commanders didn't care. The point is, the 9 who survived now had that shared trauma bond of having been forced to kill one of their compatriots. And everyone in the whole army did this. It cost them numbers, but they didn't care, because now they've compromised your sense of humanity, your morality, and your understanding of the value of human life to the point that you're a lot more easy to control. You're crushed with a sense of guilt and shame and horror and fear that you might be next. And also, because of the traumatic consequences, you care less about human life. We've seen similar things in other places where they would do public executions. They weren't just to sell tickets and shit. It was to get the population used to the idea that they could be next, that human life means nothing to the people in charge. And so nothing will save them. Are we having a fun show?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to say anything.
I'm such a thrill to have on, aren't I?
Yeah, okay. Next time, how about this? Next time when I call you up and I say, do you want to do a show on genocide? You suggest the Puppies and Rainbows. Because we're going to have to offset this somehow. Well, here's an important truth. If you don't do the thinking and talking about this kind of thing now, as it's happening, because we're seeing this, and what I'd like to propose as someone who asked you to come on to talk about these things is that I think Ember has done an extraordinarily good job of showing you how this is happening now, how it's happened in the past, and how easily it can go forward if we don't stop it. And the first step in solving a problem is recognizing there is one, and it's really easy. But I would rather I have a bedroom down that way, like 20 feet. I could go in there right now, hide under the covers. That would be easier. Most of me would rather do that. The part of me that knows that ultimately they'll come for me. They'll come for they don't. Ember's absolutely good. It doesn't matter. Any privileged group right now, Ember's been referencing all these like esoteric works made from Eastern Europe. I'm going to reference Batman. Now, in The Dark Knight, Bane has everyone go after the wealthy, and they can become easily the targeted group. Not as easily, but it can happen. Ask Marie Antoinette. Well, you can't ask her, but at any rate, it can happen. And that's an example of where somebody who is charismatic is able to say, all of your problems are coming from that group. So it can happen to any group. Anyone can be one of the 9 out of 10 that you were talking about. So we have these shows to make sure people see the problem, because I see it and I can't stand by and say nothing about it. Well, I can. That's actually why I have you on, so I can just sit back and let you say all the depressing stuff, and then, it's just like the super chats come my way, and, win-win. I will say this, too, though, and this is one of the most terrifying things, not because of who I am and what I do, but just because of where it is on the spectrum of fascism. The White House has put up an enemies list, and it is an enemies list of media influencers who are fake news, and they've put up YouTubers, people on X. And this is on the White House official. I'm gonna add it to the description because it's very important that you understand. Ed Cranstantine, who does great work on Twitter, which I will do my best to continue to dead name so long as Elon Musk wants to dead name his daughter. And besides, X is just a stupid name. But on Twitter, he's on Twitter a lot. He does a lot of good news. He reported recently on what appears to be Eric Trump rolling a joint at the UFC fight. And he covers stuff very well. He made that enemies list, and ABC is on that enemy list. CNN, I think AP made the list. The New York Times is absolutely on the list. And
everybody that isn't one of his propaganda organizations, or at least an affiliated one, like we were talking about earlier with the which step was that with the news outlets and shit. Because they do. Polarization, that's what it was.
Yes.
And I mean, this is fascist playbook stuff. It's anybody who isn't biased all the way in my direction is the enemy of the people. The U.S. has done this one before, right? We remember the sedition laws of the early 19th century. Despite the First Amendment, never mind that. No, if you're speaking ill of His Majesty, then you off to prison with you. That sort of thing.
Well, and McCarthy was surprisingly effective at it without even showing anybody the list. He's just like, I've got a list.
I have a list of names.
You're on it, and you're on it. What? I don't like what you just. You're on the list. It's like I'm just reading it right here. But this is the first time the White House government website has ever posted. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying because they're going after the media that is trying to inform people as this shit is going on. So this is why Ember, I really would like to have you on to discuss Puppies and Rainbows. I really would. We will do a show on something more. Uplifting, because I think you have to remember why it's worth fighting these kinds of things. I will say, I didn't get a chance to say earlier, but the Dr. Reverend that you were talking about earlier, that it was on your title when you first came in, Dr. Reverend Professor Christopher Mowdy Jr. Esquire III.
Okay, so he's got one or two things in there that I don't actually have.
He was actually in the
live chat. This wouldn't be the first time people have called me Dr. Reverend Professor, et cetera, like, because all those things are true.
I think he may have, I missed him, so he said a couple things, but I am watching the chat, and I would like certain mods and or, head mods, I won't specify, to just be aware that I am still watching the chat for conduct unbecoming the position, especially in relation to the respect to any given host or hosts. You can say whatever you want about the guests. I'm not, that's, they were the ones who said yes. I have no idea why anyone comes on this show. But, all right, next one. We're going to the next one. We're going all the way this time.
Okay, so let's see. We were right, number 9. So far, 1 through 8. Just to quickly recap: classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, perpetration, and persecution. All of these things are definitely happening in the United States right now.
I think the case is on it's a bulletproof case. Hegseth himself covers half of this. So, yes.
Right. So we're at minimum 80% of the way through all 10 steps. And remember, they don't have to occur in order, and you don't need all 10 to have an actual genocide. You arguably, having the 8 that we have is sufficient. But number 9 is what everybody thinks of when they think of a genocide. This is when you unleash the death squads. You send out the hate groups. They murder the identified victims in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. This is what everybody thinks of. Now note, the way it's described by the Holocaust Memorial is not the government troops go round everybody up, put them on trains, and send them to camps. It's the hate groups, those independent agencies, clubs, organizations, militias, and so forth, that have been trained and armed and polarized. They're the ones who go and do it. It's the people with the armbands, not necessarily the people with the rank insignias, The people with the red hats, you might say.
Or the brown coats, or the red hats, yes.
Yeah.
The Children's Brigade, or whatever it was in 1984. There is a private army, and what's scary is Commander had suggested a while back about, but while Trump was running his second time, I said, if he wins, what's he going to do? And Trump said the first thing he's going to do is build a private army. And I kind of laughed. So just like, how is he going to do it? I didn't, and the way he did it was pardoning all of the January 6ers who now owe him the fact that they're not in prison. Most of them were already batshit crazy for him. And now he's pardoned them, which sends them the signal they can commit any crime they want to. And if it's in his name, they're okay. And we still haven't caught the guy who shot Jane Goode, because it was our own government who's hiding him and moving him around. Mm-hmm. And then he decided to try, has so far failed, and will fail by the means by which he's trying, I suspect. But there are other ways for him to do what he's trying to do here, which is to pay all of them off, give them thousands of dollars just for being January 6ers. And he has his own private army. And if he stands up and says, the real problem is a conspiracy by X, Y, and Z, I don't know how you stop them, because the military isn't going to get involved, and local police are going to be overwhelmed by that many people that rabid who have complete pardon power by the president behind them, and may have by that point access to military weapons.
Yeah, I mean, if you give a mob blanket immunity, then we have some problems, because like, as we found out on January 6th, it doesn't matter that you have the theoretical power of the United States government backing you, that you have, armed police officers and soldiers just a phone call away. A large enough group of determined people will get into any structure, and they will do whatever the hell they want. The best you can do is make sure the VIPs get out the back before they break through the doorway. You can't even stop them from breaking through the doorway,
Yeah, yeah. The I want to make two quick programming notes before we continue. The first is we did a show, I think 2 days ago, on I always want to say Kristi Noem, and it's not Kristi Noem. It's the head of Homeland Security. I think I have a mental block on her name, which is hilarious. Because it's hilarious because she's, despite the fact that she's, I think we're a Russian agent, she's the only one who actually had competency. Head of national intelligence. Oh my God, somebody in the live chat's going to give it to me for like the 18th time. I always get bailed out by my live chat. While we're doing that, we've got, I think, 2 super chats. Sinister Porpoise, $5.12. The most important thing we can learn from algebra is that the primary reasons why relationships fail can be expressed as a function of the x. Really? Really? An algebra joke on this channel? A function of the x.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where are the solipsist jokes, huh?
I would phrase it the other way, but then it would be a chromosome joke.
Where's Sage? I need help. Okay. we need to get this show under control. Tulsi Gabbard, thank you. Tulsi Gabbard. All right, so I want to make sure I thought I had 2 super chats. We got 1. Okay. Thank you very much, Sinister Porpoise, for your joke and for your continuous, and the joke definitely very much needed. I think it's odd that I can put on my resume that at least when the 2 of us are together talking about this, makes talking about genocide fun. As fun as it can be. I mean, we can tell jokes. Some people laughed. No, you're
Netflix not, special next, maybe.
I think. Yeah, then we'll really be on the list. Okay, so we had a show on Tulsi Gabbard who used misinformation and a PowerPoint presentation that had 2 cities that weren't actually cities and put Kyiv in southern Ukraine instead of northern Ukraine. She's the head of national intelligence, and she didn't know where Kyiv is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, it's policy of the administration that all the actual work be done by the unpaid interns, and that they have to use ChatGPT to do it with.
That's fair.
It's not her fault she doesn't know, because it's ChatGPT that doesn't know, and then no one up the chain of command from the intern using ChatGPT, they don't know.
They can't. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and she was talking about extraordinarily dangerous stuff, suggesting biohazard level 4 stuff. The most that she even attempted to evidence with her really bad evidence of a map that wasn't even it called Crimea a city. It was a biohazard level 3. And we talk, in order to do that show, Biohazard 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There have been some inaccuracies on how we categorized, specifically 1 and 2. Those inaccuracies, in my view, do not affect the conclusions of the show, nor does it affect in any salient way any of the discussion we had about the disingenuous nature of what she was saying. However, I think it's for people to understand what a biohazard level 1 and 2 are, and those were the 2 that we got wrong. We nobody has brought to my attention any inaccuracies on 3 or 4, which is what was relevant in that episode. At any rate, I will be issuing a correction at some point in the next day or 2, so you'll see a video come out on that. But the Tulsi Gabbard video is going to stay up because those are trivial to the argument that was being made at the time. I'll discuss it in the other video instead of wasting Ember's time on that. I'll waste Ember's time on other stuff. The other stuff was, speaking of, the New York Times has just released, claiming an Antifa plot. U.S. charges 15 in Minneapolis with conspiracy. Today's charges and arrests reflect a broad effort to address organized lawless behavior. And then let me just see where they specifically get into. This is, basically they're arguing that they're going after Antifa, which does not exist. It's not a thing. As we know, we've had this discussion before. So it's part of, I think, where on the list would you put Antifa?
I mean, we have here a list of names. We've seen this before, right? Like when Bush invaded Iraq because he wanted to, and we had to manufacture domestic threat to justify the use of power domestically. And so we ended up like arresting sewing circles of old grandmas because they got flagged as terroristic communications or some shit, you know? Like we do this. Specifically with Republican regimes, but we do this even in the 21st century in the U.S. It's just, this may be the first time, though, that a wannabe incompetent fascist regime, and I realize all fascist regimes are fundamentally incompetent, that's why they need the fascism, but that's a topic for another time. It may be the first time that a resistance group got named by the fascists. Like the White Roses picked their own name. The French Resistance, not the most creative name, but they picked their own name. And but now we're just making up it's Antifa. It's the woke mind virus.
That's why I thought it was going to be woke, but I think it's going to be Antifa. I think that's going to be the what they're going to land on. $2.56. Thanks, Sister Porpoise. Thanks. I'll be at a local comedy open mic on Friday. Wish I could see it. Tape it. I would love to see it. Put it up on your channel.
Hell yeah.
She's got a small channel, but her sense of humor in regards to local drama that I had been possibly involved around in the ancillary around. Her commentary was always hilarious, so I just had to go watch her commentary, even when it wasn't necessarily on the side that I was quote on, but it was so. And then a Ninjester, $5. Careful, last time I crossed the porpoise, I was corporal. Yeah,
corporeal.
Yeah. Oh, corporeal. Thank you. That's what happens when I read too fast. Also, it's an interesting strategy to combat the great replacement by forced birth. Any thoughts on that?
Not wrong. Like that's everything is multifaceted. It's multi-purpose. Like I said, they're a lot more sophisticated than the last time. Some of this stuff is because they've imported the ideas of the fundamentalists, right? When Reagan put together the religious right coalition business, they started bringing in the things from the religious fundamentalists, like instead of saying creationism, say intelligent design. When you come up with your own novel terms for things, then the people who have real facts can't refute you as quickly and easily because you're talking about made-up terms that don't exist. They do this with all sorts of stuff, from evolutionism discussions where they talk about polystrata fossils, which it's an upright fossil, but they come up with their own term. So if you do a Google search for it, you can't find the real information. And so they may be importing tactics along these lines. The point of the Great Replacement conspiracy was to further dehumanize Jewish people and make that Holocaust publicly acceptable. But here it's doing double duty. It's not only dehumanizing multiple groups of people, but it's also serving the interest of stripping women of rights and turning us back into property. So I guess it is an efficient government in the evil department, at least.
Yeah, okay, there you go. There's the one thing Trump does better than every other president we've had. He even beats Bush in evil. Think about that for a minute. He beats Reagan in evil. I mean, that takes...
Yeah, I'm running back through the list, and I'm like, Nixon created fucking health insurance, and Trump still beats that. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I think so, we may have a winner. All right, good. All right, next one.
Andrew Jackson might be a tough contender because we had the Trail of Tears, we had the Native American genocides, we had multiple illegal wars, and of course the federal use of force against South Carolina when they tried to pre-secede. You could argue that prevented a civil war at that time, but the point is it was very not legal. The Supreme Court even said so, and to which he famously quipped, "They're welcome to stop me as soon as they get their own army."
Yeah, they have their ruling now. Let's watch them enforce it. Was the version as I've and that line Trump has actually. That's why Andrew Jackson is in the Oval Office, and Trump said that's the reason he picked it was because Jackson wasn't pushed around by by the Supreme Court.
And he famously had an incompetent cabinet of buddies and yes men and favor seekers and sycophants and otherwise incompetent people.
All right, so he's the most evil since Jackson. The only reason I would give it to Jackson over Trump is because Trump only admires and looks up to people who are genuinely more evil than him. And that's a short, small list. But there are people. Putin, Kim Jong-un. And he genuinely admires these people. And he admires Jackson. So in my view, that's evidence that, at least in Trump's mind, whatever Jackson was able to do, this collection of power is something that he has to attain. Once he's attained it, once he's got it, then Jackson will be meaningless. If he had more power than Putin, he wouldn't look up to Putin. He just looks up to the authoritarian figures who are currently more successful than he is. That's it.
So that's his little boy ambition is to be the most powerful despot in history. I don't think he's going to make it, though. But we can grant that he's certainly the most evil president in the last 200 years.
Yes. Well, this is good. We're making progress. I think I think we're solving real problems here. Like categorizing Trump on the ladder of evil. There was Aristotle's ladder of Eros, and there's in time's ladder of evil. Very similar in terms of importance when it comes to ancient Greek philosophy. All right, what's the next one? Yes.
That's good YouTube content. You could make a tier list.
Yes.
People love tier lists.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Last one, number 10, denial. It's just what you think. It's the perpetrators and their descendants go, no, that never happened. Or at the very least, there was no crime. Because sometimes they still buy into the propaganda. They still say, oh, we just exterminated the cockroaches. Sort of like they still say about St. Patrick in Ireland. He drove out the serpents. There were never any serpents in Ireland. It was another genocide. It was dehumanization. It was renaming the pagans. Instead of cockroaches, they called them serpents, and they wiped them the fuck out. And they still say that about St. Patrick. It's just a denial of a genocide. Textbook. But again, the steps don't have to happen in order.
Well,
That's definitely happening right now. One of the most famous, richest people on earth is denying it right now, you know?
Well,
and also the other rich person, and also that other rich.
other.
You know, it's weird how many rich people are involved in this now that I think of it. It's almost like the entire point is to distract the populace and make them fight amongst themselves or something.
I don't see why you would want to do that. I mean, they'd have to be doing something pretty Epstein awful.
Something of like, well, you know what they say, no billionaire is an island.
Okay. I was gonna try to beat that. I'm gonna surrender. I lost. I can't beat that one. I can't. Okay.
Fucking hell. Oh. So we've got for sure 9 out of the 10, and these aren't criteria. They're stages. You don't have to have all 10. They don't have to happen in order. And we definitely 100% have 9 out of the 10. And the missing one, the actual extermination, like we discussed last time, you could make a case that that's low-key underway already. Because remember, that gets carried out by the hate groups, not necessarily government troops. And right after Trump's inauguration, we had a low-key Night of the Long Knives kind of thing aimed at trans people, you know? I can't prove that the person who came for me was affiliated, but it happened in the same week as a whole bunch of trans people near me got murdered. So, I don't know. Was it coordinated? It doesn't have to be. Once all the dominoes are stacked up, and you do that first flick, the inauguration, that speech where, you know, we've taken control, we've done what we need to do, everything's going to change, we're going to restore America to a whites-only paradise and purge the scourge of transgenderism. He doesn't even have to say go. Yeah. People just go, they know it's time, and so they act, you know?
Well, and that was under Chairman Mao. So much of the violence had, was not directed by anything. He was just like, these are the people we're targeting. These are the reasons we're targeting them. And then everybody else just did the work for him. Same thing happened under Stalin in the beginning. Later, he got more efficient about it. And I think I've heard, I'm trying to remember, I wish I could remember this, whether or not, but I think somebody had floated the idea of, well, you know, it's really kind of unethical to tell trans people that they can't be trans because, they are who they are. But it's obviously an illness, so they need to be sterilized so they can't reproduce. And then,
where do they imagine trans people came from?
Well,
like, even if you did sterilize all of... I mean, never mind, that's a fucking war crime and is definitely eugenic. But, like, our parents were all mostly straight people. There were a few
oftentimes, yeah,
certainly. But, like, duh.
The same was what is it? Somebody had argued in the 60s, and I'm sure this isn't the only person, it's just one that I'm thinking about, had argued that basically homosexuals had to be eradicated because they caused it to spread. And I think it was Harvey Milk who replied, it's like, well, wait a minute, I was born to heterosexual parents. My teachers were all heterosexual, so how'd I get it? That's a really good... Oops.
Well, I mean, they really did not like Harvey Milk, kind of famously.
Yep. So,
but,
all right.
I mean, you wanted to talk about puppies and rainbows, and a little bit about rainbows.
Yes, please.
Most people know the first version of this flag was done by an artist named Gilbert Baker, and Harvey Milk was the person who commissioned Gilbert Baker to make that flag. And then Gilbert Baker was in charge of the production for the second version that only had the 6 colors because they couldn't get the material for the hot pink, and he stripped out the indigo and changed the turquoise to the blue that we have now. Like, Harvey Milk set all that in motion. The flags we have today, all of them are because Harvey Milk thought there should be a banner for the whole LGBTQ community.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Happy Pride.
Very nice. All right.
Hey, we talked about rainbows.
We talked about rainbows. And if I can, I'll talk about a puppy. I'll find a way, in a positive way. In a positive key. There's a key here. There is a caveat. Anybody who wants to bring up puppies, they have to be cute. They have to be uninjured at the beginning of the story and uninjured at the end of the story. Are we all clear on that?
No John Wick stuff. No.
Yeah, no.
But no, I know a lot about pride flags and related stuff. That's sort of my off YouTube business as I make pride flags. A certain special kind of pride flags, but that's a topic for another time.
Well, so I had Xandering loves to argue. He's a bit of a contrarian.
I've heard that rumor. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's in the live chat, and so I can say a bit of a pain in the ass. So he brought up an interesting question, because at first, and this is probably actually years ago when we had first. Each of us had first heard the term transgenocide, and he and I were talking about it, and he really didn't think that the term applied, and he said, listen, you don't want to be hyperbolic because that makes it harder to address the real issue. He did his own research, which he loves to do, and has lots of time to do, so he's actually, the amount of shit, because he does not just sit in that truck, he is always learning something. The amount of stuff that he's studied is insane. So he calls me up one day and he says, this really, there's no reasonable definition of genocide where you couldn't say we are at a minimum somewhere along that line, if not really basically committing it, just haven't, started the part that the rest of us see as, but it's really the final act. It's the part that it's the curtain comes down, you say the genocide's been committed, but it was a process. And he's just like, yeah, it was absolutely, it's happening. But he's like, if I go to any of my truck driver friends and say, yeah, there's a genocide against trans people happening in the U.S., which has, by the way, committed genocides against indigenous people across multiple countries, committed genocide against the indigenous people in this country, and helped supply Israel with the weapon. And I'm sorry, I wish we weren't doing these things, and I wish I didn't have to break. There are people who are still surprised when I say Israel is committing genocide irrefutably against the Palestinian people. You cannot deny it. And the fact that the UN has said it isn't really evidence. It should be evidence. I think it's evidence. Most people don't think it's evidence because the UN is ineffectual. They may be ineffectual, but they're not stupid. They can recognize genocide when they see it. They're calling it a genocide because it's a genocide.
That's why they exist.
Yeah. And they may be they are years late to the party on calling it genocide because they're ineffectual, because so many people, including the U.S., have veto power, because. There's a million because. The fact is it's genocide. And it doesn't take. If you don't believe me, fine. Just go look and see what they're doing. So they're starving people to death. And the U.S. is helping them do it. So it's not like it's unrealistic to say that in this day and time, the United States would commit genocide. It's not unrealistic to say that the average person would be willing to look the other way, because we are doing that right now for people in Israel. And you can make an argument for who owns the land. I personally don't think you can, but let's just go right out and say you can make an argument for who owns the land. You can't make an argument for genocide. You can't sit there and say, well, Israel has a right to wipe these people off the face of the earth. But that's clearly their intention. They've been doing it for a while, and they plan on continuing until they're done. So, yeah.
It kind of, there's a lot to unpack in that sort of thing, but to keep it super brief, to minimize our tangents on tangents here.
Okay.
You could phrase it that there's effectively two different narratives warring for supremacy and overall control of our civilization. And they've been at each other's throats for, thousands of years at this point. Ultimately, it boils down to, do humans have rights, Or is everything property? Is everyone property? You know? And eventually reach a point with the genocides and the seizing and the so forth. The people doing the genocides don't have a problem with the genocides because they don't actually value human life. They're the everything is property school. Human life means nothing to them except insofar as how it can help them personally. It's almost like um, a lot of the properties described in sociology and anthropology on the civilizational level can be thought of in terms of psychological principles applied to a person, scaled up to a civilization as if that society were a person. Basically, they're psychopaths on a societal level. Human life has no value. They will pretend your life has value because that keeps you loyal, it keeps you afraid, it keeps you subservient, and it keeps the social contract intact, which is what they need to rely on for their own safety, but they don't actually believe anybody's life has value. It's all about what they can get out of it in their lifetimes, and maybe what they can pass on to their children.
I don't know why I find this so fascinating, but what I find fascinating is watching the people like this, and Trump is without a doubt one of these people. In fact, the Iranians confirmed it. I don't know if you know this, but the Iranians said they had been negotiating with Trump for some time and hadn't been getting anywhere, and they brought in 2 psychologists. The psychologists immediately diagnosed him as a psychopath. They decided to change their approach based on the assumption that he's a psychopath, and all of a sudden they started making headway on the negotiations. I was just like, oh, well, okay, I believe that. I do believe that. But it's like I've met a couple people like that. I met more than a couple, unfortunately. But it's interesting in hindsight watching them try to figure out whether or not they think that morality or empathy is just a social convention and we pretend it's more than that, or we actually believe it's more than that. The scariest psychopaths are keenly aware that empathy is real, that people have it, and they don't. And they're the scariest because they know how to play up empathy. The ones who don't know how to play up empathy, I think they think it's all just a social construct we use, and they go along with it because it's what does keep us so that there's a social fabric and people can build and move forward and they can stay alive. But they think it's a big game to everybody. And when somebody acts ethically, they're like, "What the hell is that?" And when somebody acts ethically,
why would you do
that? Yeah,
it's confusing. In a way, that's the only way to beat them is by doing things they don't understand because they can't anticipate them.
Yeah, be the best you can be, and suddenly they don't get you anymore. They're good at reading people until you start. Yeah,
that's one of the reasons this war of civilization narratives, I suppose, is still ongoing, because you can definitely convince the majority of the population that compassion, empathy, social contract, all of these things are obviously beneficial for everyone at large. You could totally win on substance in a single generation even. There'd be holdouts, but most of them would just go along to get along and reap the benefits besides. They grump about it, but they'll happily, take their UBI or whatever. Social Security, pardon me, whatever. Get their Medicare scooters and all that stuff. But the conflict keeps going. The people who are just dying to mask off and be like, no one's life matters. We don't believe in human life having any special value any more than any other piece of property. Everyone is at best a tool. Life means nothing. All of that, all the nihilistic crap. They have an advantage because we can't exterminate them without because of our own morals and ethics. Our beliefs, what we stand for, will not let us wipe out these parasites. So we have a hell of a handicap. They have no such restriction, and that gives them something of an advantage. It makes it impossible for us to completely win. But at the same time, they need us to protect them, to serve them, and to exploit that tendency in the human population so they can maintain control where they have it and when they get it. Like, it just wouldn't work if they wiped all of us out. They'd have, like, 12 guys on yachts and no one to sail them,
Well, and even if the number of psychopaths surviving was higher, the problem is they really couldn't rely on each other, and so they wouldn't be able to function organizationally. Well, I wonder if they could do it transactionally. I don't know. Let's get out of this rabbit hole into this. We'll just have a show. You know what? We'll have a show. I'll make a nice thumbnail for it. It'll just have a big rabbit, a large, like 300 holes around it. You and I just like shooting the shit for like 3 hours.
Make it a foxhole.
Took me a second. Oh dear. I will absolutely do that. So here's Isandring's point. Now, Isandring has another feature which I think you can appreciate, and I have a hard time really understanding. But Isandring talks about the people that he sees, and he's just like, a lot of people that I see don't think or argue or fight along these lines. Now, what he's talking about is he's driven essentially to the moon and back 7 times. He's driven to all of the contiguous United States, and he gets out and he interacts and he goes and he meets people, and then because of the darn government, although this is a really stupid law for a number of reasons, he's required to have a certain amount of down hours. So, and they literally have a tracker on him. So what'll happen is if he's only got like 5 miles left, he has to find a place that he can park the car. It doesn't matter whether there's food, bathroom, anything nearby. He just has to, and he can't violate it and later say, well, I had to, because they don't take that as an answer. So, and then he's down.
Yeah, DOT will mess up your stuff.
Yeah. So, every now and then he'll have, 24, 38 hours where he's either just in a hotel room or in his, and he's doing the
34-hour reset thing. That's one of my favorite exploits.
The reset.
So you have like an 8-day rotating clock, and they may have changed it because I got pushed out of my job almost a year ago now, and they changed the rules like twice a year. But this 8-day rotating clock where you get either 60 or 70 hours depending on what kind of driving you do and so on and so forth. You burn through those hours over the 8 days. Now, there's a few different ways you can handle it. You can drive what few hours you have left and then stop and then wait for the previous, the 8th day, those hours to fall off and them to refill, and then you can drive some more. Or you can just stop for 34 hours. It doesn't matter how much you sleep, how much you go play mini golf, how much you go, whatever. As long as you're not driving your truck for 34 hours, the clock refills all the way up.
Yes. That's it. Those are the resets. And so he talks, and that's the other time. And he's like listening to books on tape. He's going out and meeting. He's real friendly. He'll just go up to strangers. Now, again, he's got an AR-15. So I'd feel a lot more confident going up to strangers too if I was back. I don't think he carries it with him, but I don't know.
Yeah, that would seem unwise. Yeah.
So, he says a lot of the people that he talks about sort of aren't fighting over these issues. And so, he talks about what he sees and people that he sees fighting. But one of the things he says is that he has seen people make the trans genocide claim before, where they say there's a trans genocide. And if it's a trans person and they're saying, there's a genocide against me, says, and that claim always draws a huge amount of ire, a huge amount of flack, and he's like, please.
It stands to reason because, you've got a couple of problems. The first is you've got people who have a political inclination to deny, because that's part of the steps, is the denial. If they're in the camp supporting the action, they have to deny. Either because they approve, and that's one of the steps, they're politically required to do it, or because they don't approve, and so they have to, cognitive dissonance, double think themselves around what they know is happening so they can still pretend they're good people. Either way, they have to deny it. They have to. The other issue is that, if a person comes up to you, like if I walked up to you in a truck stop diner and I was like, hey, there's a genocide against me, or more precisely, people like me, right?
Yeah.
Well, the fact I'm there rather than in a death camp kind of goes against that claim,
Yeah, yeah. So, so one of the things that he wanted to know is if somebody wanted to I'm a little shocked now. It could be my own ignorance. I have not seen a number of successful trans activists. The one that I saw and liked the most, and I have unfortunately forgotten her name, and she has long since retired. I think she got cancer. She was an admiral in the Australian Navy, and she was extraordinary. She was really eloquent. She was very kind and gracious, and she was on a debate with, of all people, Jordan Peterson, like 5 or 6 years ago. And everyone else was hammering Jordan Peterson. And she goes, no, I'm going to agree with Jordan here, and here's why. And she gives her agreement in such a way that it actually shows everything he said was just dead wrong. And she just destroys him. And he's looking at her, and he's like, I think she understands what I'm saying. And she's just completely obliterated him. I mean, completely. And then she uses, she had clearly gone over his past work. She's like, and he said this before about trans too, which I think you need to take into account. And she brings up like his own contradictions. Yeah, look at, I have the one video footage of a debate, and it's the only debate I'm aware of that she did. But I haven't seen very many other activists. Now, I've seen some self-proclaimed activists, and usually that's where I'll hear it's a genocide, it's this, that, and I find that shuts dialogue and conversation down. So the question that he wanted to ask, if I understood correctly, and as you know, because you were eavesdropping, because I never take blame for anything in the show. It's in my contract. Nothing is my fault, including leaving the door open to the room. How do you approach it? Do you approach if this is something we can all agree is going on? So now that we know, do you try to convince people that a genocide is going on, or do you try to fight the symptoms? Do you try to fight the sort of oligarchy that's in charge, or do you try sort of on an individual and personal level to connect with people so that they realize trans people are people, trans rights are human rights? So, in other words, he asked you the kind of question I might ask you. A real pain in the ass. You're going to have to take an hour to get through question.
Yeah, it's multiple questions in a trench coat pretending to be a single inquiry.
Yes, it is. You're welcome.
To focus on the key elements, I think, is what the hell do we do? Well, this isn't one of those situations where there's a single easy answer. It's if we look back at history, what did other resistance movements do? It's complicated, right? There's some groups, some individuals worked with organizations to try to get Jewish people the hell out of Germany or German-controlled territory. Sometimes they were successful, sometimes they got caught, but they tried. We know in some cases people tried to hide Jewish people. In some cases, resistance fighters tried to just stop the Nazis. And that's not even necessarily because they wanted to protect Jewish people or not. It didn't necessarily have to do anything to do with them, because these kind of regimes are very bad for everyone, not just the targeted group. So yeah, you can fight the fascists without even caring about trans people, but it'll help protect trans people and women and immigrants and brown people of all sorts, and non-Christians, and gay people, and left-handed people, and probably more groups. Like, why not? They're targeting everybody. The point is, we don't have to commit to one specific thing.
Yeah.
During World War II, the CIA printed up pamphlets of ways for disloyal Germans to participate in the eventual fall of the Third Reich. And it was stuff like, go to work in your factory because you don't want to get accused of disloyalty and shot, but like, work a little bit slower. Not enough to get in trouble, but if everyone in your factory works a little bit slower, if that factory's production drops 10%, then suddenly the Luftwaffe doesn't have enough nuts and bolts to repair their airplanes, you know? Little things like that. So that's just one example. Everybody can do something. Some people can do more than one thing, and there's no reason we have to pick a particular thing. Like, you don't have to get yourself in trouble. You don't have to get yourself on a list, but do what you can where you can. It isn't even necessarily about fighting. You can do like the people who are trying to get the Jews out of Germany did, and try to help the affected people who may be lacking healthcare, who may be lacking jobs, who may be lacking food, who may be homeless. Homelessness is on the rise for all LGBT people because we're losing access to employment. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I was forced out of my job almost a year ago. In a few more days, on June 30th, it will be 1 year. I've been unemployed since. I've been doing what I can, working on the internet, making art and products and trying to sell them and producing YouTube content, but a lot of us are just screwed. Helping where you can helps.
You're the word sabotage, throwing the wooden shoe, the sabot, into the machinery but that's
wrenches.
Yes, I was thinking the first sign that I saw of that here that is tough because you're not quite sure, but Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, and Secretary was spelled with two S's, SS. Secretary of Defense. That was his nameplate. Let's see, during a cabinet meeting, and they had actually done. So I was looking for it because I wanted to find it, and I have found it. So let me see if I can bring it in. At first, nobody's quite sure whether it was an accident or one of those, sort of deliberate acts of sabotage that's really clever and but it has a psychological impact either because he doesn't know either. So let me see if I can. There it is. I'm going to bring it up right here. So this was at one of his very first cabinet meetings. So, oh, no, I do remember somebody checked the font, and it was, the font looks the same to me. I recall somebody saying the font was different, but the S on Secretary seems to match the S in Hegseth. So it looks to me like the font was not different. But anyways, that's the thing. We always have to check these things because, yeah. Oh, were you still looking at it? I didn't. Let me.
It's okay. My first query with whenever we run into anything along these lines, where it's an image that looks hella damning, so you want to believe in it, that's when the skepticism kicks in, and I'm like, therefore, should I believe in it? Is it real? Can I verify it? Especially in this age of AI, where getting like doubled letters is like the six-finger thing. It can just be a tell that it is AI, That's
a good point. We do know for a fact that it happened, multiple cameras and it was one of his first, it was an actual cabinet meeting, so everybody saw it. And the whole thing went viral afterwards because the question was it deliberate? It's just so good. It's just like, but it's, if you look up, everybody's got it. And in fact, let me just see what Snopes has to say about it and see if they went into whether or not anybody figured out whether it was deliberate. What are you You're giggling at something.
My personal suspicion, you don't even need AI to do that. It's so easy to Photoshop. You just take the first S and double it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't even need AI. But it looks like Snopes did fact check it on December 3rd, and yeah, it's true. There are multiple photographs from multiple unrelated sources.
No, it definitely happened, and I remember right after the cabinet meeting, like every news organization came out with a picture of it, including some smaller local ones in D.C. So
the White House YouTube channel had it live.
That's right, I remember that too.
A freaking banner saying text POTUS to da for updates from the White House, and it's a YouTube video. It's credited to the White House YouTube channel, and the camera just like pans as Trump is speaking, and you can see the freaking nameplate.
Yeah. So that's what came to mind when you said they were telling the Germans subtle things that they could do to, and that's one where you could easily say it was an accident. Wait, SS as in. Wait, you don't mean Nazi? No, I think the S key stuck on the keyboard too long and I missed it. Sorry, sir. If they even know to type these things up. I don't know.
It was totally an accident, see?
Yeah. All right, well...
Except not really, because, he's covered in freaking Nazi tattoos already, so...
I know! He's got that sword tattoo. There's another Lego video. We're going to be showing some Lego videos, but they got one of him and that sword is glowing. He's like, I'm going to go after all the, after Islam and all the infidels. It's like, oh God, here we go.
Amazing. But that kind of touches on another aspect of Isandering's question, is calling things a genocide when it's questionable, when it's not certain. Is that advantageous? Does it put people on the lookout for, oh shit, is bad juju about to go down? Or does it make people kind of shrug off the term? The same way we see with pop psychology stuff. Like suddenly, for a while everyone was bipolar, and now everyone you don't like is a narcissist. And, the overuse of terms takes away the value of the term for when you actually need it, when it actually does apply. And so is calling something a genocide when it's questionable, is it harmful, or is it like, a whistleblower thing, like, hey, we're like right on the cusp of this. We're 9 out of 10 steps into this here.
Yeah,
and
by the time by the time you've hit all 10, there's no point in blowing the whistle anymore.
Yeah, because it's then the guy has already written the poem. First they came for the socialists, and then they came for the Protestants, and et cetera, et cetera. Now it's too late. Oops. But we see a same sort of language policing, tone policing when it comes to calling people Nazis, right? There's so much pushback because for years and years, people would call everything they don't like Nazis. And so it kind of seems to discredit your argument if you say they're acting like Nazis. But here's the thing. Hegseth is covered in tattoos that are actual Nazi symbols, like the man is a Nazi.
Does he? I think he's got an Iron Cross among other. I don't know.
There's some stuff. Let me just.
Yes,
you've got the modern term, because in order to get around internet filters and things, people have been calling them Christian nationalists. So I've made the case for the past couple of years that it's actually more correct to call them nationalist Christians, because the nationalist comes way before the Christian part. And as an added bonus, you can shorten it to Nat-C, and then you can pronounce it correctly.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
It's been catching on, or so I hear.
Well, yeah, I like it. Nazi. I'm gonna have to write that one down. Well, the other thing is Andering catches up on usually all our shows. He's going to be catching up on this one. So when I was insulting him earlier, I knew he'd be listening. And I know you're listening now, Azandering. You see?
I know. That's why you got to his question at the very end, to make him watch the whole show.
Exactly. So we're gonna he's gonna like that one too. We're gonna have to. So now I'm telling you, when you listen to this, Azandering, remind me about the Nazi thing if I forget, because I'm doing an interview right now. I'm trying not to. I suppose I could write it down, but it's a good one. I like that one.
Who writes things down?
Here's my problem. And this is not a joke. I've actually shown them before. I don't have them right now because I ran out. But I rely on Post-it notes. So I'll put Post-it notes for everything, and I will stick them on everything. And I got like 6 monitors. But then what happens is there's a really important Post-it note, and I put it up there. I was like, I'm going to forget that I put that one there. So I write another Post-it note that says that Post-it note is over there. I put that Post-it note here, and it'll work for a couple of days. But more than a couple of days, I fall behind, and there's 16,000 Post-it notes, and I'm like, I think this is a mental illness. I think this is actually in the DSM. I don't know where, but I'm pretty sure it is. It's somewhere in the DSM. It says, if there's more than 1,700 Post-it notes on your desk.
Right, the diagnostic criteria is the cutoff is 1,700.
1,700, yeah. Well, I would hope it's below 1,700, but I could even make it at 1,700. It's if they set the bar that high, I can clear it. All right.
I mean, you could just put them all together and you've got a new Quran. Because that's kind of what they did when they made the Quran.
That isn't kind of what they did. That's what they did. And then they added, martyrdom didn't exist until, like, I forget the guy's name, but afterwards they're getting wiped out. They're all dying off. Nobody wants to become a Muslim. And so the guy who was in charge of putting the Quran together and reminding everybody what Muhammad said, because nobody actually wrote it down at the time he said it. So yeah, I know. So he's just like, oh yeah, he also said that if you die furthering the religion, you go to heaven no matter what your crimes. And then they went to all the prisons and started saying, hey, have I got a deal for you? And it's just sort of like the beginning of Snatch. You must have seen Snatch. Benicio del Toro, the diamond heist movie, Guy Ritchie. So, the beginning of Snatch, these Jewish diamond dealers are going into a diamond shop, and they have to go through all the layers of security because they're making a delivery to the back. And so they're just talking, and they're in the, they've got these kind of Jewish accents, typical Jewish accents. They're like, hey, and then this happened, and then this happened. And they're like, the problem is that Mary, the word for virgin is this, and the word for young woman is this. And when you write it down without the vowels, you can mistake it. And when they mistake it, that's when somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about says, oh, she was a virgin. And then 1,400 years later, you have the Holy Roman Catholic Church. It just sort of like, it just goes from this one mistranslation to the Holy Roman Catholic Church. And I'm just like, yeah. It reminded me of that. All right, I got to check one thing real quick, and then, right, in fact, so what we're going to do, we are going to send everybody over to Culture, Faith, and Politics. Why is MAGA obsessed with proving their manhood? Which I think works. That's literally
they need gender affirming care, Nick.
they do. That is the irony, and it's I know people always say every accusation is a confession, but when you think about it, they're sitting there saying that what is it? Oh dear Lord, I lost my train of thought. Well, they're questioning everyone else's masculine. Oh yeah, safe spaces. They're like, okay, safe spaces are a real dumb thing. They're a woke thing. Anyone who needs a safe space is too fragile to to be even in the conversation. He called me a Nazi. He said I was a Nazi. That shouldn't be allowed. They should get the electric chair for 100 years for that. And it's just like
a trans person used a bathroom.
I know.
Help.
And so yeah, it is really so literally, guys, that's where we're sending you. Why is MAGA, and it's got this great picture of Hegseth screaming, which is what he does, and this warrior ethos thing, which I was sitting there going, does he realize how to most men, when he talks about what it means to be, you know, a warrior, a male, and he means a male warrior. So let's just talk on his terms for a minute.
Okay, so the weaker warriors, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The more he talks about it, the way he talks about it, the weaker he looks. He appears, during that whole thing that he did with all the generals, he looked to me to be devolving. I was like, you're turning into an ape, dude. You're going to be a monkey soon. If you keep going, you will be protozoa. Shut the fuck up while you're behind and just leave.
Go faster, please.
Oh, hey, the Secretary of War has turned into amino acids. Do we have any? Does anyone here have like at least a petri dish or something? Can we grow them? No? Okay. Rubio, you're not doing anything. War, go. All right.
Why not?
Yeah, so let me quickly set that up because, you know, and then hopefully, and then, well, while I'm doing that, any final thoughts on this? You've been on back now twice to do it. I do think, I feel really good that we've basically covered everything. One of the other things is, it's not a list, it's like a web. Because of all these things are so enmeshed and entangled, no one item that we talked on. Denial was existing from the first one. Which you had said. I'm repeating what you said at the beginning. And all of them, with the exception of actually pulling the trigger, actual extermination. Although there were, I think that one isolate. The rest include each other on some level. And when you're doing one, you're doing the others. So I think by doing this twice and by you suffering this show twice with all the technical issues that are
the struggles.
Yeah. We appreciate you coming on. I think we've covered everything. Do you have any final thoughts?
My thoughts are without limit. Someday I'll have a final thought, but we try not to think about that. We've got shit to do.
Yes.
As with all things, you don't have to debate over people's humanity. You can just, as a blanket principle, see all humans as people and just kind of go from there. Just try to be kind. Stand up for people whose humanity is being threatened, who are in danger, or who are just being treated rudely because it's the right thing to do. But you don't, the bar is not high. Just be kind. That's all we have to do, and our society works better when we do it.
And it works better for absolutely everybody, even the cis white guys, even the Elon Musks benefit from it. They don't think they do because they were born on third base. They think they hit a triple, and they think they can hit it again anytime they need to. It's like, no, dude. It was luck, and it can be taken away, too. And sometimes it isn't, but sometimes it is. Sorry, I don't know why I feel like
we have no justice. There is no real justice. We just pretend.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's all the more reason to be kind to each other, because we can't depend on the universe to give people what they deserve. It's literally just us. It's what we can make for ourselves and together. So let's work together.
There was Stephen Hawking was asked, and I feel like because this was not his area of expertise, I get to disagree with him because, and Titan knows the word for it, I don't. It's a really big word when you're talking outside your field.
I disagree with him within his field, too, so by all means, go for it.
Oh, you're going to have to explain that one to me at some point. Someone had asked him, what would happen if aliens visited Earth? And he said, most likely they would kill us all and just take all our resources. I very strongly disagree. Here's why. That I can tell by any definition that's ultra I can't say that word.
Ultra-crepidarianism. See, you're not listening to the Paula Poundstone podcast because you're not a truck driver. See, if you did, you would know that was one of the words of the day.
Okay. And I'd be able to. Well, and my eyes just do not like that word. There are certain words my eyes do not like. That's one of them.
It does have an unnecessary number of syllables.
Yeah. Well, my eyes like to see them the other way. So.
The dyslexia. Or maybe your camera's just mirrored. So maybe your monitor is mirrored. Have you been reading backwards this whole time?
If I mirror my monitor and then try to read it, this show isn't going to end until next week, is it? Okay.
Like I said, as people who watch my channel know, I can literally go forever. In fact, some have said that my health has been deteriorating for the past several months, really, really unpleasantly. The fact that my medicine, I take medicine before I get on camera. As it wears off, I eventually have to get off camera. And some people have been saying there's a silver lining to this, Ember. I'm really sorry you're suffering. I'm really sorry you're in pain. But it makes you end fucking shows today.
Well, good. I am very glad that there is someone who can talk more than me, because I'm a heavyweight in that arena. I got my BAs in philosophy and psychology. So, the point was to be able to argue forever. Haven't really tested it out yet. But so Hawking said that would get wiped out, and his reasoning for this was because of what we did to the Native Americans, yada, 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 the indigenous people. Right,
we did it, therefore everyone else would do it too.
Exactly.
Because we're the best.
He's using a sample of one, which isn't his fault. But he's talking about what human beings have done as we've moved. And here's my counter to that. The most successful species on the planet, evolutionarily, you can't actually really say one over the other until it's all over. But right now, that's us. Why do I say that? Well, because it depends on how you define successful, because success is just, bees are as evolved as humans. At least
everything's as evolved as humans, but bees are, at least here in the United States, in North America, they're a domesticated agricultural species brought over with the colonists. They're not native, and their colonies keep collapsing because they're not native. So I don't know that you can really call them successful. The native bees, however, the sweat bees, the bumblebees, the carpenter bees, if we get our agriculture the hell out of the way, they're fucking unstoppable.
Don't allow guests who school me on my own show. Sorry, I had to take notes there for future reference. Don't worry, nothing to do with you. All right, can I get back to Stephen Hawking? Is that okay with you?
Fine. But Orson Scott Card wrote a series of books
after
about bugs.
So, I'm going to argue that that human beings are the most successful species on the planet. I am going to argue that the fact that we can get off this planet, take a man, land him on the moon, he can get out, do a little jig, get back in his craft, get back alive here, is an astonishing success. I'm going to argue that the only way that we as a species have been able to accomplish all of those things is by having empathy and compassion. Without those, we would not have been able to get past the sort of more primitive caveman, just kill, eat. We learned to work together for larger, greater things. We are faced with the potential to annihilate and obliterate ourselves with nuclear weapons. If our compassion is able to exceed our aggression, which in the past, our aggression has actually been a benefit and helped us get where we are now. But now we need our compassion and our ability to build strong social structures that work together, or else we're not going to survive. if we don't survive, we don't get to build spaceships, go off in. So using that premise, any species that gets to the ability that they can travel fast enough to, at a minimum, cross the 4 light years between here and Alpha Centauri, must have had enough ability to have compassion. And by the way, that compassion has to exist for nature. It has to exist for animals too, because we have needed them in the past. We will continue to need them, and we need our environment intact. We need to have compassion and an understanding for things outside just human beings, or we're going to die. So the only species that could ever come here would have had to solve that problem, and the only answer I see is compassion and empathy for all life, so they would not wipe us out. That's my argument.
I tend to agree. In fact, I can pre-agree, because last night I was doing a fundraiser show for a member of the community. She's had a very hard time. She had to have 5 surgeries this past week alone, and so we were doing a fundraiser about it. And the closing mini speech that I had written runs along not so much aliens, but similar lines. It goes like this. This is what communities are for. We enjoy our time together, but not only that, we learn from each other. We celebrate each other's successes and help each other through the struggles, and generally try to make the world a better place, each in our own ways. Helping each other is part of what it means to be human. Some of our oldest ancestors, from hundreds of thousands of years ago, were found with broken bones that had healed because others cared for them while they recovered. This is one of the most fundamental traits that has made us who we are, just to care. Everything else we have ever done, all of our science and our ideas and our art and our medicine and our technology and our discovery and our lives filled with joy, all of it has only been possible because those who came before cared.
Ember, it has been a delight. Thank you once again for joining us. We will have you back on for puppies and foxholes. As soon as thank you very much for coming. And I'm gonna get Azandria in a room with you. It's gonna happen. I don't know how, but we'll make it happen. Unfortunately, the channel that we wanted to send you to, which is a very real channel with a very real show, does not accept incoming raids. So I am at this moment dropping the link to it if you would like to go there. We are going to be raiding Mark Reed, and most of you know who he is by now, and you can go there as well. So we're giving you 2 options. The why is MAGA obsessed with manhood, that's the link I just dropped, or just stick around for a few seconds past the outro and you will automatically go to Mark Reed. I'll probably visit each briefly. Thank you again, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Hell yeah. Night, everybody.
Good night.